I'm on a mission to 100% every single game in my Steam library. Today we are looking at Slime Rancher 2, a cozy, wholesome game about farming, which I am about to turn into a ruthlessly efficient industrial prison complex. To 100% Slime Rancher 2, I have to complete 27 achievements, find 113 treasure pods, open 25 shadow plort doors, and save the island from destabilizing and turning into gold. No pressure. The game begins with a boat arriving with a mysterious letter asking me to climb aboard. Beatrix, possessing absolutely zero survival instincts, climbs on board. This is how horror movies start. Luckily though, I ended up in the Rainbow Fields. I spent the first few minutes establishing my base operations, doing the tutorial and finding the lab, the refinery, and the fabricator, which I can use later to upgrade and craft new items. I then started sucking up the local ecosystem. Carrots, pogo fruit, and cotton slimes. Whatever wasn't nailed down really. Also, you would assume the cotton slimes like carrots, you know, since they're rabbits. Wrong! They prefer water lettuce. Normal lettuce is already 96% water, so I'm not sure what the difference is, but I'm not here to argue semantics. While debating vegetable hydration levels, I spotted a gold slime. This was it. Early game riches. A head start on my new empire. And I missed it. Aiming is apparently very hard. To recover from the shame of missing a basically stationary target, I went exploring. I grabbed the map upgrade and found some Q-berries, which I remember from the first game are the phosphor slime's favourite snack. I also found a bee drone that tried to explain the lore of the game, except I'm here for capitalism, not literature, so I ignored it to go find something that I can actually sell. Back at the ranch I started maximising profits. I combined the pink and cotton slimes into lagers, which are just bigger versions that are more efficient for ranching. But then I realised that I no longer had room and I still had slimes in my inventory. Let's call it aggressive downsizing. In the middle of restructuring, Victor, a returning character from the first game, called. He started rambling about a mysterious AI code that had sent him a message he couldn't understand, but told me he would keep me in the loop. I said that sounds interesting and hung up because the sun was going down and that means phosphor slimes. I spent the night hunting for phosphor slimes and water lettuce so that I could optimise my profits. Giving a slime its favourite food produces double the plorts, and plorts is just a polite word for crystallised slime poop. I am building an empire on poop. After selling the haul, I invested in high walls. My slimes are now imprisoned for life. I mean, safely within their corrals. I had originally planted carrots to feed my pink cotton lagers, but I decided I wanted to remove the carrots and replace them with water lettuce. Except 50 gold just to pull a vegetable out of the dirt. Inflation has officially hit the far range, but I paid the fee anyway to plant water lettuce for my cotton prisoners. The factory must grow. I also planted the Q-berry that I found for my phosphor slimes. I was briefly entertained by a tower of cotton slimes. It was structurally unsound, much like my business plan. I then went back out into the night and sucked up a tabby slime. I also found a map node, finally allowing me to see some of the rainbow fields. Then I found a pink Gordo. For the uninitiated, this is a giant slime that blocks your path until you overfeed it and it explodes. Since farming meat in this game is tedious, or so I thought at the time, and I am lazy, I decided just to feed him every stray hen and any food that I could find from the wild. I also discovered the tar, black goo monsters that eat everything. I handled this like a seasoned rancher and threw them into the sea. Eventually, I was able to pop the pink Gordo. I was originally disappointed by my reward, but found that it actually led me to a button that activated a teleporter to the Ember Valley. Here I witnessed a perplexing magic display. I smashed a mini pot, and a hen seemingly transformed into a rooster. That was a hen. Upon reviewing the video, I did realise that I actually just sucked up the hen, but for a moment I did think I was actually a wizard. The Ember Valley came with a vast new ecosystem. I quickly found lots of new things, including an odd onion, rock slimes, heartbeats, and a baddie slime. Now, the slimepedia claims this slime is definitely not a vampire, but let's see. It has fangs, hates the sunlight, and hates garlic. I'm not saying it's a vampire, but I feel like I'm being gaslit here. I also found some boom and crystal slimes, but my small inventory was already full. Ultimately, I decided to take home the crystal slimes as I thought that this would make me the most money early game. I rushed home immediately to dump my pockets and buy a new holding cell. I didn't want my crystal and tabby slimes combining yet, I just needed to empty my pockets so I could go back and hoard more wildlife. I returned to the Ember Valley to grab a new angler slime and go back for the baddie slimes. However, I couldn't stay for long as the valley was swarming with tar, and since I don't yet have a water upgrade to quell them, my only combat strategy was run away screaming. My new prisoners went straight to jail and I harvested my pink cotton lagos to fund another corral. Then, at 1 AM, Mochi Miles called. She gave me a refinery link which I totally wouldn't forget about until later. My pink cotton lagers had served me well momentarily, but the margins were too low. They had outlived their usefulness. I needed more. So I liquidated the assets and replaced them with phosphor angler slimes. I used their plorts to fund an air net, which was an extremely smart decision. I also discovered that unlike the original, Slime Rancher 2 has a weather system, and I uncovered rain. Maybe next time I'll discover grass. Morning came and I discovered my phosphor angler slimes were gone. Did I mention I played the first Slime Rancher and know that phosphor slimes disappear in direct sunlight? Now that my way to make money had disappeared, I travelled once again back to the Ember Valley to replace the slimes that I had lost. I also picked up some boom slimes but was absolutely abounded with tar. At home I discovered the shops, Pronto Mart, Polestar Provisions and the Cuckoo Corner, which had everything that I could ever need. Except for the ranch expansions, the gully, the den and the archway, which are currently way too expensive for a rancher who just burned their own livestock alive. I scraped together the cash to finally buy a solar shield. I re-imprisoned my phosphor angler slimes. They are safe now. But more importantly, my revenue stream is secure. I bought high walls for another corral to house my rock and tabby slimes, intending to also start a heartbeat farm. I had brought a heartbeat home, which I left on the ground for safekeeping, only to find it withered away. Apparently plants die. Who knew? So I went back out to find a fresh one. I also tried to find pomegranates for the baddie slimes, but due to my limited mobility and no jetpack, I was grounded. I did find some slime science resources. I grabbed the lava dust immediately because it was sparkling and my gamer brain assumes this just means rare. This pot also gave me 1,000 U-bucks, which would give me quite a start on my farm. I also found a cute bat gordo and some fire slimes nearby, but I unfortunately realised I did not have enough space in my inventory to keep them. At home I finally planted the heartbeats and brought a sprinkler for my water lettuce, which makes my crops grow twice as fast. I also bought a plort collector for the cotton crystal corral because I realised that manual labour is beneath me. I also found my first Yoki slime, which just look at how perfect he is. I then went on a feeding frenzy and popped the phosphor gordo that I found, revealing a tunnel and a treasure pod containing a tank liner, and then tried to pop the cotton gordo, but ran out of food. He lives to block the path another day. Back at the ranch I got a call from Ogden asking for updates on the local flora and fauna. I, however, ignore this homework. With my steady and growing income, I finally unlocked my first upgrade, the resource harvester, which I discovered I needed in order to get the jetpack. As well, Victor sent me a med station, which I strategically placed down to the crystal bunnies, mostly because they keep stabbing me, but this also gave me my first achievement, the Tinkerer. I built a new corral for boom slimes and tried to introduce the Yoki slime to them. However, he looked like he was awkwardly avoiding the party, so I sucked him back up to live in my pocket. I exploited the cotton gordo, found a button, and unlocked my second teleporter to Starlight Strand, snagging me the Rainbow Explorer achievement. This new area is full of buzzwax, feral slimes, and honey slimes. It also has mint mangoes, which are great because honey slimes love them. However, I was consistently struggling to explore new areas as my inventory filled up extremely quick, which forced me to go back home. I also saw a cyclone weather event, which if I had read the little pop-up it gave me, then I would have realised that this spawns dervish slimes, a rare slime that would have advanced my early game profits exponentially. I merged my honey and boom slimes and also bought a garden for my mint mangoes. Victor also called again. He told me he cracked the AI's mysterious code. The message? It said hello. Truly, groundbreaking work. I finally decided I was tired of walking and wanted to fly, and thus I started my grind for the jetpack. I went out hunting for slime science resources using my resource harvester and found deep brine, jellystone, radiant ore and primordial oil. I also found a slime statue, which certainly isn't anything but a statue. With my newfound wealth, I decided to do some investing. I bought the jetpack, the power module, the heart module and a water tank. I also bought the tank booster, which means that I can now carry 30 units of items per slot, which is a lot more efficient. I gave my jetpack a little test before moving on. The cyclones were also luckily still raging, so I snagged 2 dervish slimes. I also found the jetpack drive in a treasure pod, which I can use to upgrade my flight capabilities even further. I found a ringtail slime, which is a fascinating creature. In the sunlight they turn into a stone statue, while in the dark they become mischievous and eat food without producing plorts even when full. Essentially, adorable tax evaders. I also stumbled across a very pretty serene pond area. It was nature, untouched by man. I think a Walmart parking lot would look great here. Back at home I was earning enough money to finally buy an expansion. the den for my light-sensitive prisoners. I set up a garden for pomegranates and moved the baddie and ringtail slimes in. Then I decided to move my angler phosphor largos into the den as well. I carried them through direct sunlight to get there. I'm honestly not sure how they didn't disintegrate or why I didn't learn from my previous mistake, but I don't question the miracles that saved me money. While managing this underground prison, I found a mysterious see-through drone. Upon inspecting it, I got a message saying mysterious technology acquired, which would be very useful later for automating my farm. I also met Bob. For those who don't know, Bob is a human rancher. He's definitely not 3 slimes in a trench coat. He gave me a present and I was genuinely surprised it wasn't a chicken. This actually completed the achievement for receiving a present from every NPC, as I had already gotten one from Thora as well that morning. With the cave sorted, I turned my attention to the gully. I bought the expansion and built a coop, originally just housed my Yoki slime. I soon discovered something terrifying though. Chickens have been buffed in Slime Rancher 2, extremely so. They reproduce at rates that defy biology. I went back to check on them and found that I was no longer running a ranch but fighting a poultry uprising. The money was now rolling in, but that doesn't mean I'm smart with it. I saw the green and orange warp depots for sale at Pronto Mart for only 100 new bucks. I thought this was a hell of a deal that I could use to easily transport plorts between my newly acquired expansions and the plort market. I didn't, however, realize that I wasn't actually buying the items, only the blueprints to create them. I was scammed. I headed back to Starlight Strand as I still had a lot there left unexplored, including flutter slimes that I found which only eat moondew nectar. The problem here is that you can't actually farm moondew nectar. You have to scavenge it, and for my operations, that is a nightmare. I did, however, gather up as much as I could in order to feed the local flutter gordo that I had found previously. He exploded, rewarding me with a strange diamond and an unlocked teleporter to the Starlight Strand. While there, I also encountered the weather event Fine Tangle, a weather event similar to the cyclones in the fact that it spawns a rare slime, the Tangle slime. Unfortunately, I only got one, but this would be more than enough for me to integrate it into my farm. I also found my second gold slime while I was looking for slime science resources. In the first game, securing one of these plorts was a nightmare, but now I had already ticked it off in my slimepedia within a week. Having already almost 10,000 new bucks, I decided not to sell the plort and instead put it into the refinery in case I would need it for later crafting recipes. As well, my Yoki slime produced his first egg. I smashed it, got an achievement, and sold the plorts for a whopping $52 each. Then, using the slime science resources I had previously collected, I crafted some more upgrades. This unlocked another achievement for crafting 8 unique player upgrades. I also crafted a teleporter directly to Starlight Strand, which was much more convenient than having to walk there and waste time. I went back to the Ember Valley to hunt for slime science resources, finally uncovering the map node. I found prickle pears and a boom gordo guarding a doorway. Naturally, I ignored this and just went home to farm. Back at the ranch, you can really tell how much I care about the economy, which is to say, not at all. Due to me flooding the market, nearly every plort was worth about the same as a pink plort. Capitalism is failing. I renovated the gully, adding a prickle pear garden and 2 new corrals where I stored my tangle slime and mixed my flutter slimes with my dervish ones. Afterwards, I had leftover flutter slimes in my inventory that wouldn't fit in the cage. I couldn't just ethically release them into the wild responsibly, so into the sea they went. Selling the flutter plorts netted me the achievement for selling 15 different types of plorts. I celebrated by doing exactly what I always do. More ranching, which you can assume that I'm always doing. I did also pet the Pronto Mart cat, which got me yet another achievement. However, I must admit, I'm ashamed I only attempted to pet the Pronto Mart cat after reading the achievement. I bought my 3rd expansion, the Archway, which I left blank for now, and also bought the Tide Pool expansion. This place is perfect because it has natural water sources, meaning I can dump puddle slimes in there without buying a pond. It is quite literally free real estate. I had also discovered a new goal, crafting a drone to do my bidding. And in order to craft it, I needed wild honey and flutter plorts. So I quickly headed back to Starlight Strand, the only place where wild honey is found, to grab some, as well as some puddle slimes to put in my new tide pools. One slime did, however, bounce off the ground and fly into the ocean. No! He's with the sea now. I then collected flutter plorts to finish the drone recipe, except collecting plorts was becoming incredibly annoying because my inventory cap was only 40 units. And as you can imagine, my corrals were producing way more plorts than this. I was truly suffering from success. Except, despite this, I still didn't have enough flutter plorts to buy a drone, so I overhauled the archway into a flutter slime factory. I added 2 prickle pear gardens and 3 corrals, which I aimed to fill with dervish flutter lagos. Victor also rang again with an AI update. Apparently, he and the AI are playing games now, and the AI said it needed coffee. I'm starting to suspect the advanced AI is just a tired IT guy messing with him. I returned to Starlight Strand specifically to get more flutter slimes. That was the mission. Naturally, I failed. I brought mint mangoes and chickens to feed the local Gordos. I tried to pop the honey Gordo, but he was too hungry. I successfully exploited the ringtail Gordo, which gave me a strange diamond and a teleporter back to the Rainbow Fields, which I didn't want to use. I scrambled together enough chickens to pop the hunter Gordo, revealing a treasure pod. I then went home with an inventory full of ringtail and hunter slimes, despite the fact I explicitly went there for flutter slimes. I truly have the attention span of a goldfish. One good thing came from the trip, however. I managed to find and successfully feed a lucky slime, unlocking it in my slimepedia. Back home, I made the extremely smart decision to release my chickens outside of the coop in the gully. I had learned that the chickens reproduce outside of their coops, and I thought having them free range would make it easier for my tangle slime to eat whenever he wants. I did not realise I was sowing the seeds of my own destruction though. I was in for a world of pain later. I also upgraded my jetpack to level 2, which doesn't actually make me a better pilot, it just means I can fly for longer. I took my new wings back to Starlight Strand. You would assume by now I would have fully explored this area. I have not. I opened up some shortcuts, collecting the flutter slimes I actually needed this time, and finally popping the honey Gordo. I found a cool tree that was half pink, half blue, and then I spent a good 5 minutes struggling to climb to the very top of the tallest mountain in the region. I expected a treasure pod, or at least a pat on the back. I got nothing, just a view and the realization that I had wasted 5 minutes of my life. I went home with 17 flutter slimes and realized the chicken situation was increasing quickly. The floor is starting to move. I ignored this impending poultry uprising to focus on my archway expansion. I finally turned it into the flutter plort factory that I needed. This allowed me to craft my first quantum drone station, a new worker added to my collection. I exploited the Bat Gordo, giving me a shortcut through the Ember Valley cave, where I decided to place down my drone to look for slime science resources, so I don't have to. Satisfied with my delegation of labour, I headed back to Starlight Strand. I immediately spotted a gold slime, and missed it. At this point, it's not even a failure, it's just becoming a tradition. Then I witnessed a confusing moment of nature. I watched a phosphor slime pick up 2 flutter slimes, lift them into the air, and probably fly them directly into the sea. I don't know what the plan was there, but the execution was flawless. During my downtime, Thora rang. She told me that she and Hobson were starting their family, which I initially thought, why is she telling me this? But it is actually relevant to the story later. I gathered some wild honey and then went back to check on my drone in the Ember Valley to see what it had collected. I needed lava dust to craft my second drone, and my first drone was putting in work. I collected 5 lava dust from it, which, even though it was less than the 5 minutes I spent previously looking for lava dust, it felt better because I didn't have to do any work. Automation is truly beautiful. I also found another Yoki slime on the way to the teleporter. I deployed the second drone in Starlight Strand, allowing it to collect wild honey, strange diamonds, and silky sand, all ingredients that I was currently low on. I then went back to the Ember Valley to grab some fire slimes, which I later discarded anyway, and finally fed the Boom Gordo until he exploded. This revealed a teleporter, and a weird light contraption guarding a mysterious door. I couldn't find my way through the door, so I went home to a call from Victor, who told me that AI has the key to unlocking the Grey Labyrinth, which is the door I assume I was just at, and he gave me the blueprints for a radiant projector. I decided to take a break from the main quest to satisfy my lizard brain. I needed to fill out the slimepedia to get an achievement, and in order to do that, I needed blueprints, which meant I needed treasure pods. Each section of the Rainbow Isles has a different number of treasure pods, so I started in the Rainbow Fields, where I had to find 18. With my new jetpack upgrade, it wasn't hard to find them, and I ended up finding 17 of the 18, but I could not for the life of me find the last one. I also ended up getting a heart cell, a power chip, and yet another Yoki slime on my journey. Before upgrading my power core and heart module, I quickly went through the conservatory to find the 3 hidden treasure pods. Apparently the game felt like testing me after my health upgrade because I was promptly struck by lightning, which did actually give me an achievement. Worth the brain damage. Also, for some reason throughout my playthrough, I believed that feeding the drones too much made them sluggish and slow, so I was carefully feeding them the entire time so that they wouldn't go over 100%. Yeah, well, turns out they actually work faster and more efficient the higher the percentage. Apparently I don't understand how robot stomachs work. I went home to ranch, upgraded my dash boots again, and finally bought my first radiant projector. On my way through the Ember Valley to test out the radiant projector, I used my jetpack for 5 seconds for the first time. For some reason, I hadn't previously tested its capabilities yet. I popped the Crystal Gordo and the Rock Gordo, who were both sitting on geysers. Why are all the Gordos in this area sitting on geysers? Are they using them as bidets? I have questions about slime hygiene that I really don't want answered. I also got an achievement for cracking my 50th treasure pod. At the light puzzle, I quickly realised I would need more than one projector, so I ran home to make another before finally unlocking the door and entering the Grey Labyrinth. I quickly found new resources such as tin petals and magma combs and was inundated with shadow slimes that I couldn't catch, which is very frustrating for a person who tries to put everything in a cage. Shadow slimes cannot be stored in the backpack, however, by throwing and hitting them with an item, they will produce a plort. They're like a living pinata. I also met a girl named Gigi. She asked for my help to save Rainbow Island from the Prisma core, which is destabilizing and turning the world into gold. So now, on top of managing a chaotic farm and a poultry uprising, I also have to prevent the apocalypse. I ventured deeper into the Grey Labyrinth and found a black pot. I smashed it and it exploded with shadow slimes. This would be very useful later, but for now it was just chaos. I found a corner, smashed it, went on a vandalism spree, and ended up with over 40 shadow plorts. At this point I didn't know what to make of these plorts, so I ended up going home to sell them. This may have been a mistake, but for now I had the funds to go on a spending spree. I bought the Ember Valley teleporter as well as blue and yellow return home teleporters, which I strategically placed next to the Starlight Strand and Ember Valley teleporters. Now I can fast travel and completely bypass the Rainbow Fields. I have successfully made the starter area obsolete. And I also got another achievement for crafting and using a return home teleporter. I also checked on the gully. The chicken situation had escalated from uprising to apocalypse. My tangle slime is eating them, but it's just one slime against an army. I bought my final range expansion, the dig site. This netted me the achievement for unlocking 5 expansions and revealed a ghost drone. I immediately decided this area would be perfect for saber slimes, which I haven't found yet, but I know they're out there. I returned to the Ember Valley, not for the Grey Labyrinth, but for a secret cave behind a waterfall. There was a door requiring 3 plorts to open, and I continuously threw a hunter plort at a tabby slime statue. I'm not sure what's worse, my aim or my eyesight.
Oh, it's a tabby, okay. I'm not terrible at aiming, I'm just terrible at knowing.
I entered Powderfall Bluffs, which I now realise I thought it was Powder Puff Falls this entire time. Guess we have an answer. My eyesight is in fact worse. This also gave me an achievement, and I also discovered snow. The last weather event, I needed to fill out part of the slimepedia. Powderfall Bluffs, if you haven't already guessed, is very snowy. But it also has auroral bridges that only appear at night and help you traverse the land. I collected a new slime science resource, the perfect snowflake, as well as a thunderclock hen, which looks like a prehistoric dinosaur. And yes, I do know chickens are technically dinosaurs, but this one actually looks like it remembers the meteor. I also found slime fossils and snowballs. I threw a snowball at a crystal slime because I thought it would be funny. It hit me back. What the f? The slimes are officially rebelling. Then I finally found them. The saber slimes. My favourite. Although I saw a comment on a video the other day saying that saber-tooth slimes are shaped like walruses, and I can't unsee that. I kidnapped 4 of the walrus cats and headed home to deposit my loot. I threw the Thunderclock chickens into a coop to jumpstart the population, fed my drones in Ember Valley, and then returned to the Grey Labyrinth armed with a pocket full of mint mangoes that I threw at shadow slimes. I found a door that required a rock plort to open. I shot the plort, the door opened, and revealed another door. This happened twice, by the way. It was like a Russian nesting doll of frustration. I also found unstable fruit. It kept trying to float out of my inventory, which is incredibly rude. but by feeding them to a slime, I got unstable plorts that I then converted to Prisma plorts. GG called this a Prisma disruption, describing it as the Prisma core throwing a tantrum and causing reality to glitch. When this happens, the resources in the area detach from physics and become unstable. I managed to unlock my first shadow port door, and it gave me some decorations. I am risking my life for feng shui. I also activated a button that I had found, revealing a new section of the Grey Labyrinth. In this area, I found a fruit called Polia Cherry and Black Indigonium. I also found the twin slime, which looks suspiciously like that split tree in Starlight Strand. I then tried to run on a giant hamster wheel I found, which unfortunately did not let me spin on it. I found a twin slime statue depositing a plort, and then hit another radiant light puzzle. I realized I definitely needed a lot more projectors. Back at the ranch, I decided that my prison needed a complete overhaul. I fired my rock tabby largos, evicted my cotton crystal largos, and got rid of my bloom honey largos, placing them with pink rock, cotton tabby, and honey flutter largos, each with their own personal gardens. I treat my prisoners well here. I also bought an incinerator. On paper, this was to house some fire slimes, but in practice, it was the only way to manage the overflowing chicken population that would soon take over my new Yogi coop. Soon after, I also got the Billionaire achievement. I headed back to the Labyrinth, grabbing some fire slimes along the way to make use of that incinerator for something other than population control, and found another strange door, this one with 3 lights above it. One was already lit thanks to the slime statue that I had previously solved earlier. I used a shadow port to light the second one via a shadow statue, but the third light came from a slime that I had never seen. I returned home to deposit some royal jelly that I had found earlier and finished renovating the den. I realized I had too many slimes and not enough storage, so I got rid of the baddie pink largos and replaced their corral with a silo. I bought a red and green return home teleporter, which I placed one in the Grey Labyrinth to travel quickly, and 2 market links which I placed in the den and the gully. Speaking of the gully, the chicken situation had officially escalated from cute to Lovecraftian nightmare. The sheer number of feathers on screen was actually overstimulating. I collected my ringtail slimes and released them directly into the gully to take care of my chicken problem. Except this plan didn't go as well as I had initially thought. After they had their fair fill, they fell asleep.
Don't sleep! You've got a job to do! Get in there!
I then spent the next what felt like forever manually sucking up and throwing the chickens into the sea. Also, I actually counted 314 chickens. There were 314 chickens running around that I personally threw into the ocean. And that isn't even counting the ones the ringtails ate, which, judging by the plorts, was at least another 34. I then rebuilt the gully, setting up a corral of crystal dervish largos with a prickle pear garden and a corral of boom slimes that I was going to merge with something later on. I also bought another silo. And finally, the gully was not an overstimulating eyesore. I bought my first slime toy, the full moon ball toy for my baddie slimes because it was cute, then headed to Starlight Strand as I decided that it was time to find all the treasure pods. Starlight Strand has 33 treasure pods, and I needed to find them all to unlock key upgrades as well as decorations that I would need to complete the slimepedia. This also gave my drones time to gather resources while I did work. On my journey, I found an Anglagordo, which I popped and found it was guarding a treasure pod. I also found a golden sure shot module, which I didn't actually use, but considering my aim is historically terrible, it would have been a great investment.
Whoa! Oh man.
I also had a revolutionary discovery when I picked up a ribbon streamer decoration that was on a beach like a kleptomaniac. This made me consider whether I could pick up and reuse my radiant projectors later. I found the final treasure pod in Starlight Strand, unlocking the easy breezy fan, which I plan to use later to exploit shadow slimes. I took a quick break from finding treasure pods to do some ranching at home. I found that fire slimes are incredibly more useful than they were in the first game. Like, they are basically just money printers. Afterwards, I headed to Ember Valley to find the 35 hidden pods there. I found a ghost drone, popped a tabby gordo, which also unlocked another teleporter to the Rainbow Fields, and also revealed my final treasure pod in this area too, bringing me to 18 of 18. I continued my search in the Ember Valley, stopping briefly to restock my drone, which I found is a more productive member of society than I am, and hunted down my final treasure pods. With that done, I had officially cleared every pod except for the ones in Powderfall Bluffs. I went home to blow my life savings on some upgrades, including an extra tank, a tank booster, a power core, and another quantum drone. I also began renovating the tide pool expansion. I bought 2 corrals which I placed twin boom lagos in, 2 gardens of polia cherries, and an extra pond for my petal slimes. It did ruin the view a little bit, but twin plorts sell for $55 each, and that was more than enough for me to look the other way. I then visited my saber slimes, which I had been neglecting in the dig site, turning them into saber tango lagos, and released a fresh batch of chickens free in the area. Apparently, I did not learn from the first uprising. I crafted some more radiant projectors, and then it was finally time to head off to the Grey Labyrinth once again, as now most of my achievements required it. I also picked up my original radiant projectors and found that the door to the Grey Labyrinth stayed open. Recycling, am I right? Finally having enough projectors, I was able to solve a light puzzle, unlocking another section of the labyrinth, the Dreamland. The Dreamland is very whimsical and purple in comparison to the Grey Labyrinth, and houses new items such as the Dream Bubble, a new slime called the slimes, which are arguably the cutest things in the game, obviously behind the saber slimes, but they also eat candied hens, which implies the existence of a chicken made entirely out of sugar. I'm not sure why nature evolved this way. I went back to the door with 3 lights, lighting the third with a Slumber plort which revealed a twin Gordo and a path into the elusive Prisma core. Not wanting to go to the end of the game, however, I turned and ran the other way. Back at the ranch, I decided to renovate the archway. I evicted the flooded dervish lagos, lawfully, of course, and replaced them with a coop for candied hens, a silo and 2 corrals, one for Slumber hunter lagos and another which for now just housed Slumber slimes. At this point, I had been playing for about 8 hours straight, and it was starting to show. Mr. Krabs, I have an idea. I think I need to go to sleep. The chickens in the saber area weren't multiplying fast enough to feed the masses. Instead of dealing with this, I made more radiant projectors and went back to the Grey Labyrinth. I returned to a light puzzle that I had previously abandoned. I initially thought the door opened into nothing but sky, but realised I had a jetpack for a reason and could fly over to a distant platform. Solving the puzzle here unlocked the terrarium. Gigi told me this place was designed to preserve life in case everything else on the planet dies. It's always nice when your comfy farming game casually drops existential dread into the dialogue. Here I found the hyper slime. Imagine a slime that has had 10 espressos. Now imagine hundreds of them crashing into each other. That is how they are. The terrarium is also a breeding ground for tar, having an abundance of slimes in such a tight-knit area. I now needed turbo taters, the favourite food of the hyper slimes, and not just for the slimepedia, but because I needed to plant them on my ranch. I went around looking through all the veggie patches nearby before I decided to just stand by one and wait for them to grow. I thought this was a smarter decision than waiting and having the wild slimes eat them, but after I waited for what felt like ages, they finally popped as unstable fruit. After a mental health break, I came back and decided to search in a different place. I collected some shadow plorts and opened a shadow door, unveiling a shortcut back to the main labyrinth, which I actually never used for some reason. Eventually, I found a turbotator. The slimepedia says they move so fast we can't see them moving. Too bad they don't grow that fast. I opened another shadow door which unlocked another hamster wheel. I have now realised these aren't for cardio, but instead are permanent portals used to convert unstable plorts into Prisma plorts. I went home, started growing the taters in the archway, and combined the Slumber slimes with the hyper slimes. It's a perfect match. The hyper side wants to run a marathon, but the Slumber side is narcoleptic. They cancel each other out into a manageable existence. At this point, I still had 11 achievements to go. One of them, Pro Style, required me to hold a strange diamond, royal jelly, sunsap, and a lightning mote all at the same time. I already had the royal jelly from the labyrinth and a strange diamond I had collected from my drone, but I still needed the sunsap and lightning mote. Before looking for those, I noticed a cyclone in the rainbow fields. I purposefully created a tar outbreak, grabbed one, and threw it into the wind, unlocking an achievement. I'm just waiting for the inevitable sequel where the tornado hits a Las Vegas style casino. And also 10 achievements to go. I headed to Powderfall Bluffs to do some chores, find a sunsap, pop the saber gordo, place my 4th drone, red return portal, and find all of the 24 treasure pods. A lot of the pods in this biome require you to walk across auroral bridges, which did get me stuck on a cliff at one point. I had to stand still for 12 in-game hours staring at the sky, waiting for the sun to set.
Michael, don't leave me here, Michael.
Truly riveting gameplay. Once I managed to escape, I grabbed the final treasure pods, unlocking the Powderfall Bluffs teleporter and officially clearing the map. After this, I went home and did some retail therapy at Polestar Provisions. My thought process was that I had to buy everything to unlock all decorations that I would need for the slimepedia. I hadn't actually realised at this point, but you don't actually need all of the decorations to unlock the slimepedia. However, I did get a new achievement for buying 40 items. I was getting increasingly annoyed that my inventory was constantly clogged by the Royal Jelly, Strange Diamond, and Sunsap I was hoarding for the Pro Style achievement. It was only after many hours of being a pack mule did I realise that I had multiple silos that I could just store those items in. My genius frightens me sometimes. I had been closely monitoring the weather, waiting for a level 3 thunderstorm event, which has a chance at dropping a lightning mode. But as it turns out, my drones had already found one for me. Before popping the Pro Style achievement, I quickly made my 5th drone, which got me another achievement. I returned to the Grey Labyrinth and fed the Twin Gordo as well as Hyper Gordo that I had found. This Gordo was sitting directly on top of a button. I had to feed him until he exploded just to press a switch. Seems like a very excessive security measure, but I respect the commitment to inconvenience. I also needed to farm more shadow plorts to open more shadow plort doors. Originally, I had planned a somewhat complicated strategy using easy breezy fans and chickens. The fans would blow the chickens around a small area, moving them slightly, and thus any spawning shadow slimes would bounce off the chickens continuously. But I discovered something dumber. I found a tight pipe in a wall, threw in some turbotators, and then smashed a shadow pot inside. Since the shadow slimes drop plorts when they take an impact, the confined space basically turned into a mosh pit of profit, and I walked away with over 150 shadow plorts. I solved another Radiant Project puzzle, which are starting to feel less like puzzles and more like chores, unlocking a new area, the Waterworks. This place was full of a new resource called Aquaglass and was exceptionally beautiful. However, it was also a navigational nightmare. I genuinely spent over 20 minutes wandering in circles, having absolutely no idea where I was. Somewhere in the delirium of being lost, Gigi dropped a piece of lore. She revealed that she is the AI Victor has been speaking to this whole time in order to test his trustworthiness. I also found another spot that you can easily farm shadow plorts in, so much so that I felt like I could have drowned in them. With my abundance of shadow plorts, I opened a few more doors, unlocking an achievement for opening 10. Then I finally decided it was time to reach the Prisma core, which earned me an achievement, as well as an even bigger bombshell from Gigi. As it turns out, she is actually the granddaughter of Thora and Hobson, contacting us from the future. She explained that she tried to save the world, but the Prisma core imprinted on her arm, corrupting her and trapping her in this state. She can't return to her world because travelling across time broke the teleporter that she used. So now I'm qualified to clean up slime poop and a time travel family tragedy. Gigi explained that even though the world is literally destabilizing, I still need to pay for upgrades. I have to trade Prisma plorts at an exchange station to get rainbow coins and to buy a nullifier. The nullifier would allow me to harmonize instability, essentially delete fake walls around the place to activate harmonizers. The world may be ending, but capitalism is eternal. I went hunting for Prisma plorts, unlocked the nullifier, and headed home to craft it. On the way, I saw a chicken that was standing directly on lava. I may be the main character, but I think that chicken is the most powerful entity in the game. I returned to the Grey Labyrinth to farm more Prisma plorts. I also executed the pipe strategy again, walking away with over 300 shadow plorts. I used the nullifier to delete a fake wall and found a button that summoned a giant bell. I'm not sure why my brain didn't automatically think to ring it, but I ended up just walking away. I had to shamefully backtrack 10 minutes later when I realised that bells are, in fact, designed to be wrong. I found the other bells in the lava depths, the waterworks, the Dreamland, and the terrarium, as well as some other cool rooms, such as a music room, where some hyper slimes were jamming out. Then it was finally time to stabilise the Prisma core. I'd been putting it off for a while, but believed I was finally ready. Except I didn't realise I was walking into a full-on boss fight. Gigi confiscated my entire inventory and I was thrown into an arena with giant tar monsters. In order to defeat them, I had to suck up slimes and fire them into a machine to power a giant slime shower. Now, I'm not entirely sure how the physics of this work. Is the machine wringing them out like a wet sponge? Either way, I would not want to check the filter. I washed the tar, stabilised the core, and transformed the land. And also, I got an achievement for saving the world. I watched a cutscene where Gigi, from the future, got to see Thora and Hobson in the present with their new baby. Thora, notably, has no idea who Gigi is. Stranger danger is apparently not a concept that exists on the far, far range. The main storyline was now over, but the completionist nightmare never ends. I still had 4 achievements left. I unlocked the night market, a shop where I could spend the rainbow coins that Gigi gave me. I bought a linked cannon and sent a plort through it to the market. 3 more achievements to go. I did fail the first time and create an infinite loop of teleporting poop. Next, I built a slime goal. The achievement required me to score 120 points in a minute, so I gathered a massive inventory of plorts and stood in front of the hoop. I'm pretty sure the hoop is supposed to move to make it more difficult. Mine did not. It just stayed in one place. It was either that or I'm just LeBron James because I scored 239 points before I eventually stopped the game myself. Now I had 2 achievements left. One was easy, buy items from the night market. Done. The final one was the big one, complete the slimepedia. I was currently missing a few things obtainable through shadow plort doors. A gold teleporter, a tridro turret, and the power injector, just to name a few. I was also missing a violet teleporter and a curious flag, but I could only get these through Victor gifting them to me, and I was also missing a mountain of toys. I decided to unlock all of the shadow plort doors first, and then the waiting game began. My gameplay loop devolved into sleep, wake, check the store and communication device, and sleep again. At this point, I am no longer a rancher, but a professional sleeper with a side hustle in checking emails. Victor eventually gave me both the violet teleporter and the curious flag, and I had managed to find most of the toys, including the Stego Buddy, personally my favourite, a piece of bread for my Yoki slimes, a stuffed sheep, and a literal toy rock. I paid money for a rock. Finally, after almost 30 days, I found the last toy, the charcoal brick, and it was well worth it for how much the fire slimes loved it. On day 95, I had officially 100% completed Slime Rancher 2. To celebrate, I placed down a carousel and put my Yoki slimes on it for my own entertainment. They had graduated from being prisoners of capitalism to being prisoners of centrifugal force.